Thanks for staying with TPC Breakfast. Let's head to the paper review segment now, looking at what big stories the papers here in Nigeria and beyond are leading with. And we begin with this Nigeria, leading with yet another sad Sunday report, this time around in Kaduna State, where terrorists are said to have hit a Catholic church. 3 persons are killed and scores abducted. That's in fact, it goes on to say that about 2 churches were attacked in the Kajuru area, where a set number of women and children were kidnapped. Well, that's for this Nigeria. Let's check out Nigerian News Direct next. Well, the big story there is fuel scarcity, long queues worsen in Ogun, Oyo, Osun, and others as price hits 300 naira per litre. That's for Nigerian News Direct. And I think we also had a reflection somewhat of that here in Lagos. To the nation now, huge crowd gives Tinubu rousing welcome to Lagos. Of course, we talked about that in our lead story earlier, about how it was a wonderful homecoming for Asiwaju Tinubu on Sunday. Let's go to the Daily Times now. The big story there is on the Saturday Ekiti Governorship poll, how Oyebanji emerged winner, it says. Buhari, Fayemi, others congratulate governor-elect. SDP rejects results, heads for court. Oyebanji's camp dares Oni to challenge election result. Oyebanji's camp dares Oni to challenge election result. That's for the Daily Times. Let's go to Blueprint. Well, that's also towing a similar line, looking at the fallout of Saturday's election. President Buhari and Asiwaju Tinubu there said to give their reaction on the turnout, calling it an inspiration. They are saying that Oyebanji's victory will inspire APC come 2023. That's for Blueprint. That's also what this day is leading with. President Buhari says to Oyebanji, you must be magnanimous in victory. Of course, Mr. Oyebanji has gone on to say he will move on to have crucial meetings with his fellow contestants, all in a bid to move Ekiti State forward. So that's for this day. Let's go to First News now. Why APC won Ekiti Governorship election? Well, the paper goes on to say that infighting in the PDP, vote buy-in, as well as incumbency factor aided the ruling party's victory. Some analysis there from First News. To the Punch now, still on the Ekiti election, APC PDP clash over vote buy-in. Oni's camp moves legal action. Well, that's for the Punch. The leadership is towing a different line where SANs and CSOs are saying to INEC that you must reject candidates who didn't participate in primaries. Leadership says that. To Daily Trust now is talking about an expose on the aviation sector, saying more woes as aviation sector diesel prices soar. Jet A1 hits 815 naira per litre. Also, inflation spikes as transport cost rises, and a host of other implications there for the aviation sector. We check out more business stories on Business Day, where the sector businesses are said to have abandoned power grid for alternative sources. Let's go on to National Economy, who is saying that population surge push more Nigerians into poverty despite GDP growth. More business stories in Business AM, with poverty set to spread as inflation exposes an out-of-depth government. Well, that's for Business Nigeria. Let's move on to other papers at this time. The Guardian is talking about auto firm stocks crash as Nigerians spend 4 trillion naira on Tokumbo vehicles in 10 years. That's an interesting one there. To the Abuja Inquirer now, it's talking about 200 billion naira IGR. The FCTA fares 62 billion naira shortfall, performing SDAs to get 2.5% of earnings and plans to rival Lagos in disarray. So that's for Nigerian newspapers at this time. The Sowetan paper from South Africa is saying they are manipulated, and it's referring to a SAFA presidential hopeful led Waba hitting back at women, backing incumbent Jordan. That's for Sowetan. Also, the South African nation is also preparing for election later on. The Independent is the final paper we'll be seeing at this time. Unions urge ministers to find solutions to rail strike. Leaders accuse government of fanning the flames of pay disputes. So much for the papers this morning, gentlemen. We have a splash of interesting stories. Of course, we cannot but talk about the sad one there in Edo State, talking in Kaduna State, talking about the churches that were attacked on Sunday during during Mass. And
2 weeks after the attacks
in Ondo State, rather a worrying trend. And also, I think the Maranatha Church as well also got hit on Sunday in Kajuru. And Kajuru has been in the news for a while, looking at the security threats there and, you know, the violence that's always pervade the area. It goes to give a sense of, you know, how much the government has to do to make sure that the state and indeed Nigeria is safe for all.
Yeah, I spoke of the banalization of evil while talking about vote buying and all of that. But this is a very different kind of evil, a very gory and barbaric type, you know, where you go to a church and then you go there and where people are worshiping God, you, in a very macabre fashion, you just dispatch them to their maker. It is gory, it is heartless. It is a bad version of what T.S. Eliot did when he wrote his play Murder in the Cathedral, and that was just a murder. But this one is a different. These are murders. This is almost like this is a massacre in the cathedral. It's a mass. It's a target of mass and just destroying them. We saw that. We've seen that in many cases. Over the past decade, where these people go to places of worship, and this is not restricted to Christian centers, but also to mosques, and they've done that to markets, and they've done that to open places, and they have been very, very, very focused and very ruthless and very mechanical in their accuracy, and so it all shows that we are yet to get to the bottom of this problem. And the sense is that we know where these people are, we know where they eat, we know where they move, we know where they hide, we have the weapons to get them, but we are not doing anything to stop them. So it's a case of self-imposed impotence, if you ask me, in which we know what to do, but we just stare. We just stare while people die.
And the worry is for many is that no one knows who will be next. You know, that's that feeling that these you know, bad elements always seem to have the upper hands. In fact, and then women and children, you know, being soft targets. You know, that would somehow, some would say that may also affect the response of government, seeing as they would probably want to avoid collateral damage, even as, of course, the pressure is on them to make sure that all these captives are brought home alive and well.
But Kemi, in Nigeria today, the business of banditry looks like the biggest business in the continent. As a matter of fact, apart from these attacks in Kaduna, former officials of the Nigeria Football Federation, about 2 of them, an assistant coach, I can't remember their names now, but they were also kidnapped over the weekend. And
even in Edo also had a case of a group of mourners.
They are now demanding for ransom, I think the region of about 100 million plus. That is the biggest business. And I'm surprised that the body language of most of our leaders, especially the governor of Kaduna State, this has been consistent. I mean, Sam has said it, they have been mechanical. These people come, this is not the first attack. Even in Kaduna State, according to reports, there were also attacks 2 weeks ago in the same state. And it has happened, I mean, in Kajuru, most of them have fled their ancestral homes. Most of them are just trying to look for where to survive and all of that, displaced and all of that. It's a very big problem. I'm not sure what the body language of the governor of that state is and how that is contributing to these attacks. He has said he's not going to negotiate with the...
He has always had a tough stance.
Yes,
always had a tough
but
stance.
if you're not going to negotiate with these guys, what are you doing to end these incessant killings and attacks?
We must give the Kaduna governor some slack because he's called the chief security officer, but he controls neither army, nor soldier, nor air force.
This is still a lingering
he's just
problem.
a titular, a titular head. All he has is rhetoric and persuasion. And the power to do anything lies in center. We don't have state police. Does not have his own version of Amotekun. Even the Amotekun we have here is also restricted because it cannot bear arms.
Carry arms.
It cannot remobilize. It doesn't have constitutional empowerment. So we have left power to those who do not want to use it. Power now resides to those who use it, and those are the ones destroying people. So it is just the irony of power that we're dealing with in the country.
It was even said, last week, this issue of state police and, all the security implications, came to the fore. First, the NBA had its week, NBA Ikeja branch had its week, and many people were commenting. That was also a topical issue during deliberations there. Femi Falana and others, saying that if churches and worship centers generally can be armed, so to speak, with cameras, where we would have spotted, for example, now it's 2 or 3 Sundays after June the 5th attack now on the Owo Catholic Church, and still nothing. We can't say that we know who these killers are.
Yeah.
By face or wherever,
yes,
or somehow. And then on the issue of state police, again, that also caused a loud debate between Governor Akeredolu and the AGF, Malami.
Yes, Malami.
I'm sure you followed, you followed that, where he threw it back at the governors and said, how well have you guys given local governments autonomy, and now you're here asking for, state police, go to court or go to the legislature now to have, these things worked out legally.
That was red herring. I mean, you're discussing one issue and you're bringing another issue.
Yes,
it's a way of dodging the matter.
Yes.
That is not the way lawyers. That's not the way lawyers do. You go to court, they'll say, no. That is not the issue.
Face the issue
on ground.
At hand.
Well, I hope that churches would begin to sit up, because we are such a religious people. And people would always go to church and would believe that, oh, God will protect them. And so probably there's no need for CCTV cameras and all of that. I think from what we have seen in very recent times, we must, it's good to be spiritual and religious, but let's face reality. If your church can afford, the CCTV cameras, or employing security officers and all of that to help with your security, I think churches would need to look at that, because if you cannot leave it alone for the government. Yeah. I think that's on the one hand. Well, secondly, I would differ a bit with Sam. We have Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State. I am not sure we have seen very recent attacks in Borno State as we've seen in Kaduna State. Remember, Borno was where Boko Haram started many years ago, 2009. And we now have a governor who, I don't know how he's doing it, but somehow some of those villages that were taken over by bandits or the insurgents and all of that, people are beginning to go back there. While Kaduna, which was relatively a very peaceful state, has now become the center stage of these attacks by bandits and kidnappers. Maybe El-Rufai should go learn from...
Well, there are different situations.
I would say no two states are the same.
Of course,
exactly.
Because what is happening in Kaduna is intra-city attacks. Those are attacks within people who live around you, who come from their hiding places, just like we have in eastern Nigeria now, where in the southeast, where people who live among you come to attack you. That's different from what is going on in Borno State. Borno State is a whole town taken over, and they are dealing with armies.
And again, the
Armies,
external influence.
You know where they are,
right.
and you go straight at them. Those are standing armies that you have to really attack frontally. Take over cities, you go there and take over the city, and then flush them out. So it's different, and it's the federal people that are doing it, not the state. It's not Zulum that is doing it.